Thank you. And good morning to everybody. I'd like to ask a first question. Who of you is not wearing shoes? Maybe hands up. Okay, everybody came up with shoes. So maybe you are possible consumers which are tomorrow maybe see a different world of consuming shoes. Who of you is ordering shoes by the internet, online? No one? No one is ordering shoes in the internet? You're ordering shoes in the internet? Well, I know that there's, the Singles Day of Alibaba in China, always in November. I think the online retailing is extremely driven by you as consumers. And I'd like to show you some of these examples. And this is turning our industry completely upside down, this industry of industrial production of shoes. So my name is Christian Decker. I'm CEO of Desma, a small, medium enterprise in Germany. And I just like to give you some numbers. We are employing roughly 250 people, and we have a revenue of roughly $70 million. This was last year, and you see also that there's a strong concentration on Asia. Unfortunately, you don't see this, but Asia is really roughly 35% of our revenues. So Asia is still the dominating market for the production of shoes. But there are other regions in the world which are really strongly consuming also shoes. One is the US market or North America, and the other one is Europe. But the number of shoes produced in Europe are quite low. So what I like to focus on in my presentation is more something like a first step on the way to artificial intelligence. We need something like Industry 4.0 to have this, as we have seen it in this other presentation, as more or less the first stage of this rocket as a booster. And then we can collect data with intelligent sensors, and we collect big data, and then we circuit it. What we have seen in the first presentation of Professor Sang regarding the big data collection, can analyze this, find out some anomalies, and then we can generate some automatic processes to focus on optimization. What is really the global market today in the footwear industry? We have one Earth. We have 7.6 billion humans on the globe. We have roughly 15.2 billion feet. And we produced last year in the footwear production 24.6 billion pairs of shoes. So these are just numbers, but these numbers are rising continuously based on growing welfare, that people can afford more and more shoes. And the other aspect is the growth of the human beings in the world. So the population is rising. What is the influence in this industry is really strongly, over the past 60 years and maybe until the next year, 2020, we see a strong influence, especially in the order lot size. This is the left bar chart. The order lot size is shrinking more and more. When yesterday a big footwear manufacturer ordered maybe 100,000 pairs, today he's just ordering 5,000 pairs, and tomorrow he's just ordering maybe 500 pairs. So the order lot size of one type of shoe is shrinking, and the variety of products is this. In the middle you find the variation, the product variation is strongly rising. And what is really now your personal influence is really by the online retailing. This is something that you are more and more having an influence on the design of shoes. By online retailing, you are collecting or you're bringing information that you are ordering maybe today, because it's rainy outside, you're ordering maybe more dark shoes. Dark brown, dark blue, whatever, and also black shoes. And tomorrow maybe you have blue sky and you're ordering more yellow, pink, and maybe orange colored shoes. And this is really a strong influence. And there we need also artificial intelligence to guide the data to the pre-manufacturers of raw materials and to the footwear manufacturer. So what we need really is a closed information chain. The basic trends of our industry is really something what you see here. Mostly it's driven by automation, what we have seen also by Bastian, what he told us about artificial intelligence in manufacturing processes, robotization, digitization, and general automation. It's something what we see more and more. So humans are more or less to tomorrow more collaborating with robotics, and sometimes they are also substituted by robotics. But what's coming up more and more is really this Industrial Revolution 4.0, or in the US you call it more IoT, Internet of Things. What is coming also, and this is directly combined with your digital touch to the supply chain, and then we are talking about consumer-centric design of the supply chains, is the design for manufacturing. This is something what really the big brands like Nike, Adidas, also Anta, the Chinese brands, also as well the Korean brands, they need more and more this direct relation design to manufacturing, that they prepare the data of products in this way that they automatically can be produced. Additive manufacturing, or later, more or less, you call it more or less 3D printing, is something which is also rising in importance. And then we are coming with one which is only possible with Industry 4.0 or IoT, and which is really driven and really boosting up maybe in the next 5 to 10 years with artificial intelligence, is the smart and integrated supply chain. So supply chain of today is still looking like this. The design is made maybe in the US by a big brand like Nike, for example, or Under Armour. I don't know exactly if you know all these brands. The design is transported to more or less in a digital way, transported, and the products are ordered by Nike. They are produced in China, Vietnam, Indonesia, and then they are shipped over to the US to the central warehouses, where they are retailed more or less out in the retail store. The time from closing a container in China or maybe in Vietnam until the product is in the store, that you can touch and feel the product and test it on your feet, it takes between 8 and 12 weeks. The lifetime of this product is just 8 to 10 weeks. So when you're closing the container in China or in Vietnam, you already also stopping the production of this product. This is really something which is a hurdle and a paradigm. We should really overstep this barrier. So we need a much, much faster supply chain. The business model of today, and I call it really the push model, it's something like Adidas and Nike, they are pushing products into the market, and they hope, they pray that they are selling this 1 million pairs of shoes which were distributed now in the market. The real part is they are supplying just data. Sorry, this is running automatically. Normally it should stop here. So the manufacturer is producing the products, sending them out to the brand. The brand is putting this on the desk of the retailer, and he's selling it to the end consumer. The important point is everything starts at the brand on the left top, and everything stops at the consumer. And I call it the push principle. The next model is really something in roughly 6 years. We are expecting something like a decentralization of the supply chain, that we have different hotspots of production, and these spots are in a network of supply and delivery from one spot to the next one. And what is really the course then is called, from my side, really the pull model. The order is done from the end consumer on the right bottom side to the retailer. The brand is delivering product data, and material and equipment is supplied. Maybe you have a retailer tomorrow in something like a shopping mall, and they are sending out the material or the product, the pair of shoes, directly to the end consumer. What's here really important is the green and the red box. Everything starts and ends at the consumer. And this is really totally turning our business upside down. So brands are employing designers. The designers are designing products where they hope they can sell it. Tomorrow, maybe you go into the internet, you make a configuration of your shoe, maybe in design, in colors, or you just select a pair of shoes, and then we are adapting the way how to make the shoe for you. So the basic challenges of today and tomorrow are really totally changing. When we are talking today about the labor loyalty, which is one of the biggest challenges, especially in Vietnam and also in China, then tomorrow we are talking mostly about one point, and it's on the right up, it's speed to market. Speed to market means we need a complete integration. When you are ordering now this shoe, we need to produce it on demand, but fast, and you want to have it tomorrow and not in 5 weeks. This is something which is also challenging the big brands. And it's also with the same way with maybe with the iPhone or maybe with any smartphone, what you are using, or with any other product. You want to have the product fast. It's the marketing guys, they call it the moment of truth. When you are willing to pay for such a product, you want to have it immediately. You're not willing to wait weeks or days to get it. So our industry has really now the challenge for radical changes. So they must really change their internal strategy, how to design products and how to fulfill the demand of the consumers. So this is bringing us to the way of the smart supply chain. So raw materials are sent to manufacturers, they make semi-products, and OEM gets data from the brand, and it's also using maybe something like equipment, also from our company, but also mostly from Korean and also from Taiwanese and Chinese manufacturers for equipment. They are then shipping the product to the retail market. And the interesting part is when you talk with big brands like Anta, with maybe also Nike, they talk always in the supply chain. They are having the OEM, the raw materials, and the designers, and their own facilities. But what they're forgetting is this one, the consumer. The consumer is a part of the supply chain. He is receiving a product. And when he's receiving a product and he doesn't like it, he's sending it back. He's shipping the product back. And what we need now is really something like a closed loop. This is the red line, the feedback loop from the consumer to the brand. And they are not having this today, honestly. You won't believe it, but they are collecting massive data about everything, but not about the really use phase of shoes, for example. And the same, the use phase of the iPhone, for example, is totally analyzed. But maybe you're riding also bicycle. The use phase of a bicycle is also something like a big question mark for the manufacturer of a bicycle. Just a small number of bicycles, like these electric-driven bikes, they have something like a GPS sensor, and they have also a speed recognition where they are riding and how fast they are riding. The interesting part is now, these facilities or these pictures are showing still facilities which are existing today. 90%, 90%, are made in this manual way. And roughly 200 people are producing roughly 1,200 pairs of shoes in 8 hours. These are the so-called production lines. When we are ordering tomorrow just 1,200 pairs of shoes, they need to switch tomorrow to a total different product in this production line. And this is really one other challenge of the big brands and this industry. The current status of speed manufacturing, when we call it like this, and I just write it here, 1 hour from order to shipment for individual footwear, not for mass production. Can you imagine this is possible? I just can show you one example. We are having this concept, we call it FitStation. It's a development together with a large producer or a large software company coming from the US, from the Silicon Valley. We are cooperating with Hewlett-Packard, and we are scanning food data. What you see on the top center part, we are scanning the food data. So we know how you are running. If you're running more on the right side of your outside food or on the left inside corner or whatever. So we know exactly how your roll process of the food is. Then we are scanning your food in 3D. And the interesting part is that you have this as a portable model with you. So if you're opening your smartphone, you have then your 3D picture of your feet with you. And if you like, you can even buy a pair of shoes for your girlfriend, because you have also, maybe because she's willing to give you the data, she's giving you the data. Then you go with this data into the store, or maybe in an online store, like maybe Alibaba store or Amazon. With this data, you exactly know the length and the width of your feet. You don't need to know the number of the size, which is on the box of the shoes or whatever. And with this data, we are then matching the 3D data of your feet with the 3D data of the shoe. So we're putting both inside each other in the virtual model. And then we are selecting just this shoe and this shoe and this shoe is fitting me, me personally, and these shoes are suggested to me. And if, for example, Alibaba has an overstock of certain sizes, maybe you are offering your data, and they are just sending you the information that they have an overstock in your size, and you're not getting a different size. This is really something there you can ask them what is then individual. This is a best match, how we call it. But now we are coming here in the process that we are making the shoe on demand. And this means, for example, every shoe like this one, the white part here is the so-called midsole. The black or the gray one here is the outsole, it's touching the ground, and the midsole is giving you the dampening. And the dampening can be now adjusted individually. In the heel part, it's much softer than in the center part, than in the forefoot section. And what we are doing now is the blending of mass production equipment and making this information based on your foot scan, what you see here. You have your foot profile here in the center part of the picture. You see now exactly where your feet need support and dampening. And this is brought in a mass production directly with your order process. When you're ordering now this shoe, we are producing it in your color, what you select, and in your profile of damping. And in addition to this, we have also a different other product. We can also 3D print an insole, which is giving you the perfect shape. Because we have now your profile, and we know everything about your foot. And this is giving you the opportunity to have the best shoe with the best damping and with the best shape of your bottom of your foot. So this is a 3D printed structure, and you get both together within 3 days, shipped to your home by maybe tomorrow also a drone or whatever. So this is something we are working on, these concepts, and we have shown these concepts within 1 hour. We were producing shoes on demand. So the people were on the ISPO fair, for example. It's the largest sports goods fair in Munich every year, and we were showing this on the booth. We were scanning people, and we had a machine beside of this, and we were producing shoes on demand within 1 hour. Individual shoes. And this is something, when you're coming to these models, we need to think really in the future. It should be changed from something like a static description of products. We need a dynamic and a digital description. We call it more or less a cyber-physical product description. The important part is also with this shoe, for example, we can completely produce this shoe based on this hand of raw materials. Maybe you won't believe it, but this shoe, really the complete shoe, is just these raw materials. You're cutting these raw materials, you're placing these materials into a mold, and the rest is just an injection process. So an injection process of plastics. But this means really you have a leather upper shoe and with super comfort in the bottom. So it's a combination of the principle of a business model and combined with new processes for manufacturing. And maybe most of you, when you're wearing maybe sports shoes, you know also maybe knitted shoes, maybe knitting. My grandmother was knitting me, for example, gloves or whatever. This was really funny. When I step back now into this industry, we are coming now to knitted uppers. So this is more or less not knitted by my grandmother, but this one is knitted by a machine on demand. And it just needs 5 minutes. And just consider these concepts, and when we are then looking into the future of manufacturing, it's interesting. Then you have the basic design, you have production planning. It's maybe something which is still supported by human beings because they have the knowledge today. But tomorrow it's completely done by artificial intelligence. The next one is that we need tools to make these shoes, and then we have the manufacturing process. We are coming vertically in with the blending of the consumer data. We are coming back to this part that we are producing an individual midsole, which is giving me the dampening where I need it. And also, we are getting here, for example, with this individual manufactured 3D printed insole. Then we are shipping the products, shipping to the end consumer, to his home door, and then we are getting the use phase. And this is now one of the most important aspects. The use phase means how many miles you were walking with your shoes. Do you know this? Do you have a counter in your smartphone that you're counting your steps when you're jogging or whatever? This is used, these data, and then we are feeding this data back. You find it on the bottom of the screen now. A closed loop from the use phase of the shoes back to the design phase of the next generation, of the next shoes. So by this, we can evolutionarily improve by generation, the shoe design automatically by artificial intelligence. This is something which is coming in the next 5 to 6 years. At the big producers, they are already thinking in this direction. And this can be transferred also to other products, like the seat of your car, for example. Do you have sensorics in the seat of your car? Normally not. You have a heater in your car seat, maybe you have a ventilation, even a climate or an air condition maybe in the seat. But do you know how much you're sweating if you have the right seating when you're riding left or right with your car? What's with your bicycle saddle? Is this really comfortable for you? Or do you like to have a sensorics, like a pressure map, what you have seen here on the top center picture, that you have the same with your butt on the bicycle saddle? So you can individualize also bicycle saddles. Or maybe you're riding a scooter or a motorbike. What's with the helmet, what you're using? Is this individualized for you, or is it something off the shelf? And is it fitting really perfectly? These are all products which are bonded maybe to the human being, and the human being is totally different. We have 7.6 billion people, and they all look different. Even my left foot is completely different to the right one. So when we are now integrating these lines, these production ideas, we are coming to the traditional production and smart concept manufacturing, what you see on the right side. There are a lot of arguments, especially another argument is carbon footprint. The carbon footprint of a push economy, when you're pushing 150,000 pairs of shoes, of winter shoes now into the stores, and in January, the spring is coming out, the summer is coming out, you still have 50,000 pairs on stock in your warehouse. What you're doing with them, you're discounting them, because you cannot get them into the warehouse until the next year, next winter season, because the fashion is changing and the colors are not matching anymore to the fashion of the next winter season. And this is something, really a hurdle of the big brands, and they want to overcome it. So the carbon footprint, the economic values, and also the ecologic values are much higher if you have an integrated smart supply chain and on-demand manufacturing. So the business of tomorrow, just look at this shop. I call this more or less produtainment. Entertainment and production blended together. So do you know the city of Orlando in Florida? But all of you know Mickey Mouse, right? You ever heard about Mickey Mouse? So people, 35 million people are traveling every year to visit Mickey Mouse. Why? They want to be entertained. And by the way, Walt Disney Corporation is selling a lot of small Mickey Mouses. Yes, this is a side business, but the main business is really entertainment. But what I have not seen in Orlando, I've been there a couple of times, not to visit Mickey Mouse, but conferences are held up there in Orlando quite often. This is really interesting. No manufacturing is done there. So the products which are sold there are made, all of them are made in China. I don't know exactly what's tomorrow up with the price of a Mickey Mouse in Orlando when Donald Trump is really keeping the tariff discussion. But the main point here is produtainment means you're blending together production and entertainment. So just imagine that the Mickey Mouse is made in front of you, or you are a part of the production process. This is something, some examples are there. New Balance has a store in Boston, for example, in the US. Adidas calls it Knit for You in Berlin. You can knit a sweater on demand. It takes 2.5 hours and you just can pick it up in the store later on, or you can stay by and drink a coffee. You get the coffee for free, for sure. You need not to go to Starbucks in the neighborhood and pay $5 for the coffee. You get it here for free. Converse Blank Canvas is another example in Boston. And then there's also the Nike ID studio in London. These are all shops which are offering more or less individualization, that you make a configuration of the shoe and you directly can pick up the shoe from the store with you. This is something we are mixing up now, Industry 4.0 and configuration. But what is here now? Artificial intelligence, more or less here nothing, yes. But what we need here really is the integration now in the production process. This could be, for example, the future store, where we have in the store the production of the shoes, really in an individual way. And for example, for this shoe, you just pay roughly 20 to 30% more for the individualized shoe compared to the shoe off the shelf. So not 80 or maybe 100 US dollar, you pay then 120 US dollar per pair. So this is really a reasonable price. And these shoes are made already in a prototype factory already in Belgium. And these days, since 1.5 years, we are having there a store where we are manufacturing shoes there. This is coming tomorrow also to the main cities. So the new design and the new ideas behind a store is never more this big box retailer stores, how they call it, where you have only shoe boxes in the store. Here you are reducing this to a small amount of different type of shoes. What you see here is a selected edition, more or less, of different type of shoes on the wall. You have the scanners in the store. It's a high fashion store, more or less, and these shoes are costing roughly, it's a brand Echo, it's a Danish company, but you find also the store here in Seoul. These shoes are sold normally for 150 US dollar roughly, and individualized for 180 or 200. The interesting point here is also data analysis is done how you are walking. When you are running, what is your performance of running? Where is your touch point of your feet? Is this more the heel or the forefoot section? And also how you're rolling your feet. And then they have a 3D printer in the store. It's in the corner on the top left picture. There's a 3D printer who's printing the insole. This is really an interesting concept where you have also the completely integrated production in the store. And this blended with the digital data. And now coming to 3D printing. 3D printing is really a nice technology, a beautiful technology, and I'm coming originally from this industry, but it was 30 years ago, end of the 1980s, that this technology has been invented, and everybody thought this is the disruption in manufacturing everything. Up to now, it's not in mass production in consumer goods. It's now going into mass production and medical production, like tooth implants, also ankles and so on are printed in titanium. And also products for the aircraft industry or for special race cars or whatever. But for mass production like shoes, it still has some barriers, and these barriers are material properties. These are the printing time and the cost of the final product. And even these insoles, they have a price of roughly 150 US dollar today. We are working on it, that they have tomorrow a price of 20 to 30 US dollar, individualized printed. So this is still something which is a mixing technology, and we want to look now on something because your forum had originally a name like green and global growth, or global green economic growth. And the main point is now sustainability in the footwear industry is something important. Just consider 24 billion pairs have been produced last year. What is the lifetime of a pair of shoes? When you're throwing away a pair of shoes after 3 years, after 5 years? So what we are producing today needs to be more or less wasted and recycled, ideally recycled after the lifetime of the product. And this is bringing us to the market importance of sustainability, and this factor is growing fastly now in all our mindsets. You all maybe know Greta Thunberg, for example. This is this Swedish girl, 16 years old, which is traveling around the world and having these strikes on Friday in schools. I don't know exactly if this is also happening here in Korea, but in Europe and in the US is really popular now. And they are really considering this young generation, these digital natives, they are really following up sustainability. So, but there are ways to consider this. One is, for example, reducing the waste on the beaches, collecting these bottles and the plastic from the oceans and making shoes out of it. And one program is from Adidas, the Parley program, maybe you heard about it. They are collecting these plastics and they are recycling these plastics and making fresh shoes out of it. This is something which is maybe a really important combination of 3D printing, which could be also integrated. You know now here, 3D printed shoe soles made of ocean plastic. Did you ever consider this? This is something we are really working strongly on these concepts because we don't want always to integrate digitization. We want to integrate also the the concept of 3D printing, new technologies and recycling. And now coming to the final value, this one, data, is more or less the most valuable resource of these days. And the important part is brands are collecting data. For example, this guy is the CEO of Under Armour, Kevin Plank. He is collecting data. Maybe you know these runners apps. And the interesting part is, and now we are coming to artificial intelligence and big data collection. He knows where you are running and how fast you're running. And when you're using Under Armour shoes, he knows also which equipment you are running. So which type of shoe you have on your feet. And then he's doing something like a map where you see in Tokyo, San Francisco, New York City and London, you see where the people, for example, are running here. Or also, he knows also where you're cycling in these same cities. So you have the hotspots of cycling and also of running, or maybe the first slide here was walking. The interesting part is when you have really nice ideas about business models, you're just putting a booth, or maybe in the morning at 5 o'clock you're standing up and you know exactly in New York City at this corner they are passing 500 people and they enjoy every morning a small cup of whatever, orange juice. You're pressing in the morning 500 cups of orange juice. You are selling them for $5 at exactly this corner. Within 20 minutes you made maybe 800 to $1,000 and after this you're going to your workplace. So these are business models. If you have just some ideas and data, as you see it here, you can generate the next business model out of it. And artificial intelligence will bring exactly this data analysis that the next cycling store will open there where the most cyclists are passing by, maybe with this brand of cycles. So you find a lot of different arts or kinds of business models when you have data. And the integration is really something we need really to follow up and open our mindsets and bring up our, let's say, our entities, our companies to this new thinking, new world of thinking. Thank you so much for your attention.